Hi friends, I'm Jessica Lowell with 514 Photography. I am a wedding and portrait photographer based in North Georgia, and I believe that joy makes the world go round. And today I want to be talking to you about my second favorite lens, or my first favorite lens. I don't know. If you watched my last video from last week, I talked about the RF 28-70 2.0, and I said it was my favorite lens. But I bought this one first because the 70-200 has always really truly been my heart. But these two are my arsenal now. So today I'm talking about the RF 70-200. I have an old blog post. I'm going to link that below, talking about why the original EF 70-200 is a must-have, and it's my favorite portrait lens. However, as soon as this guy came out, I bought the R6. As soon as it came out, I fell in love. So as soon as I was ready, I sold an RF 70-200 and I sold an EF 70-200 and I purchased the RF 70-200. Now, if you're wondering why I still have one, my husband and I used to shoot together. However, he has his own career that he loves that he's amazing at. So it's our running joke that I had to fire him. That's not what happened. He actually asked me to, because I was wearing him out because our business is so super successful. All glory to God. However, so I sold his 70-200. So I still have one. I don't know why though. Anyway, moving on, the RF 70-200. First of all, if you are at all used to the weight of this thing is gonna be a dream. Look at the size difference in person. Okay, so this one has a cap. This one doesn't, because I use it all the time, and these go right into my gear bag. You've seen my gear bag if you've watched my gear bag video. And these are super protected in there without, because I don't have anything rummaging around in my gear bag that could scratch them. However, so you can see the size difference right here. The lens actually is a little bigger, the front facing lens on this one, but that does not mean anything, because this one is just as beautiful, just as creamy, just as tack sharp, and even a little bit faster than the original. So this one zooms, so that's really cool because I wear a spider belt system, and once portraits start, like bride and groom portraits, or if I'm at a portrait session, I have this lens on one of my camera bodies, this lens on the other, and I put them in my spider belt. And I will say, especially if one of them has a speed light on them, like, you have to be very careful how you're walking when you have two camera bodies on your hips. But this one stuck out so much further that if I was like walking through a door or something, I always would walk sideways and shimmy just real carefully. I still do that, but this one is sticks out way less. So just when it comes to physically carrying this lens, this one is much more convenient. Of course, it's lighter, so it's easier on your wrists at the end of the day. I can't say enough good things about this lens. I know prime lenses are amazing and lots of people use those religiously. I had an 85 1.2. I also sold that lens when I bought this one because I never used it. Every time I would put it on and I would take a photo with it, I'll be like, ugh, and I would just put it in my bag, because the compression that this lens, when it's extended all the way to 200, produces, and how it just makes your couple or your subject just pop, almost makes the background look fake. You can get that with the 85, but not for me as easily as I could with this one. Plus, when you're in time crunch, if you're used to shooting weddings, sometimes things go wrong. I have seen the groom go to get ready and he unzips his suit and his collared shirt is not in there. No collared shirt, and all of his groomsmen were either much smaller than him or much bigger than him, and we had to have somebody run to the nearest store, which was Walmart, and buy a men's dress-up white collared shirt just so we could get the groom dressed. You don't even want to know how far behind that put us on bride and groom first look. I've seen the bride go to put her shoes on, so she's fully dressed and she had these beautiful strappy shoes, but they only strapped a thin strap over her toe and then the strap that straps from the back up and around the ankle to hold her ankle in place. Goes to put on her wedding shoes, no backup, no flats, no sneakers, no anything, and the buckle on the ankle strap that holds it together was actually put on backwards, and no way that you tried would the strap go through and buckle her ankle in place and hold her safely in her shoe. We had to get a tool set. We took those shoes apart and put them back together. That set us back 45 minutes because the bride just was going to be wearing her shoes when she did her bride and groom photos. I've seen everything happen, and I have seen things happen that have pushed the timeline back by an hour. So when you wind up with 10 minutes to shoot the bride and groom, and that's it, and especially if you don't know anything about flash and you have a hard time shooting at night and having an opportunity to take your bride and groom back out at night. So if you're only a natural light photographer and you've only got 10 minutes and you won't get any time during sunset because now you got to shoot all those family photos and you've also got to shoot the wedding party, enter the zoom lens. So the really cool thing about the 70 to 200 is I like to get way far back. That way I can get all of the compression. And let's just say I'm taking what we call grandma's picture. The picture that grandma's gonna print and put on her mantle. And that's where you have the bride and groom hip to hip, right? And they're just smiling and looking at the camera. Boring for most of us wedding photographers, but is the most printed photo, right? So let's just say I have the bride and groom in that stance. They're just smiling. Without moving my feet and without giving any more direction, I can take a full body, a 3/4 body, and an upper body. So that's just that. And then you can move them to the nuzzle, to the wrap your arm around, and then you get them and do 5 more poses in 30 seconds. And without ever moving, you get 3 variations of each pose. This will save you when you only have 10 minutes to shoot the bride and groom photos. So I just love it. I know with prime lenses, you have to move around a lot, and I still move around a lot with this. I will move my angles, but I'm moving and I'm zooming so I can just make that background disappear like butter. So I absolutely love this lens. The other thing is if you're a wedding photographer, this lens is necessary. I know there's lots of opinions on it, but I would say 8 out of 10 wedding photographers will tell you you need a 70 to 200. And here's the reason why. First of all, during a first look. During a first look, I tell all my couples that this is your private moment. It's also the only moment all day that they'll be alone until they get back to their room at the end of the night, because their friends and family will be pulling on them and hugging them. They'll be dancing and cutting cake and eating and all the things. Literally, the bride and groom first look is the only time that they're going to be together by themselves, except they're not, because we're with them. You're photographers and you're videographers, but I don't want them to know. I don't want them to, they know, but I don't want them to feel like we're in the space with them. I want them to feel like it's truly a private moment. And if I've got, you know, a 28 to 70 or a 50 or a 35, I found myself when I was shooting with those lenses during the bride and groom first look that I wanted to get closer to get my style, to get the creamy background in the back, and to get them super sharp and get their eyes. And I was ruining the moment when I was using prime lenses for the bride and groom first look. So I don't do that anymore. I just use a 70 to 200, and then I have another lens, which is usually my 28 to 70. But before, when I did shoot primes, it would be my 50, and I would save that until we start actually setting up portraits. But for the first look, this is necessary to truly make it private for them, and to catch the close-ups, the emotions of their face without actually getting close to them. The other thing is during the aisle in the ceremony, and if you have one photographer in the back, I have my associate in the back, and she's shooting the groom, and then I'm in the front, and I am shooting the bride and her dad, or whoever's walking her up the aisle. I can get her from all of the angles and still have her face super in focus, and still just good enough to zoom out and turn and get the close-up of the groom, because I'm right here, like bride, groom, bride, groom. And then if you've ever shot a Catholic ceremony, you know you're not even allowed up there. I've had ceremonies where you're not even allowed to get a picture of the bride and groom, or the bride and her dad walking up, because you're not allowed at the front of the aisle or anywhere in the aisle. Sometimes you're only allowed to be up in the balcony or in the back, and in which case, if you don't own one of these, rent one. If you have a Catholic ceremony or an in-church ceremony coming up anytime soon, even if they didn't tell you, you'll be very disappointed if you arrive and whoever runs the church says, oh, by the way, you can only stand here. you always want to have one of these. So other than that, you don't need it. Now for intros, depending on the space, how big the reception is, I might use this, or I would use my 24-70. But during first dances, I like to get back behind like the tables of people watching after I get the basic shots. Or I should say the safe shots, like just them in the frame dancing, smiling at each other. I like to move behind some of the tables and behind some of the centerpieces and zoom in a little and shoot where you can use the flowers of the centerpiece to kind of frame and crop, and some of the heads. Get behind mom and dad, right? Get between mom and dad's shoulders and shoot the bride and groom in their first dance between mom and dad's shoulders, watching them. Money. Anyway, so beyond loving this lens is one of my favorite portrait lenses, I would definitely say if you're shooting weddings, it's a necessity. If you have any questions about this lens or even the original, feel free to pop those questions below. I will say, if you do not have, if you're shooting mirrorless, you have a Canon R6, and you know you need or want one of these lenses, but you don't have the budget for the newer RF version, don't buy this one new. Buy the 70-200 2.8 2 version, right? This is a 2 version? I think I had two versions. Yeah. 2, IS2, USM. Buy this on eBay, buy it in a photographer's group, buy it used, because they're no longer going to be distributing EF lenses once they completely eliminate the DSLRs. So, and lots of wedding photographers who have just purchased these, like myself, are offloading their old lenses. So find one that's a great used price. I definitely would buy this used. I definitely would not buy it brand new. That's just a personal opinion, but I believe it's also a wise business decision. Anyway, if you have any questions, pop them below. I do have a free posing guide. If you haven't signed up for that already, I'll link that below. It's got my favorite 10 poses and prompts that I use for every couple session. And that also puts you on my insiders list. I release a new YouTube video every Tuesday, so don't forget to subscribe. And again, comment below. I will comment back. Thank you for watching.